When you talk to most people in law enforcement, they don't get into law enforcement for the money because it's not a whole lot of money in it unless you get to be sheriff.
I like that.
And you know, like I said, the rule of the street is snitches get stitches.
Oh yeah. Hey, listen. Listen. I've been there, but those same people that are out there killing other people may one day kill you.
I agree.
Yeah.
Those same people
It's a double-edged
hey,
sword.
listen, those same people that were out there in the projects breaking in our house, stealing our TVs and our VCRs. I know I'm telling my age right now, but those same people was out there stealing TVs and VCRs and robbing our house were the same people we were protecting. Why? Why were we protecting bad guys? Why were we allowing negative people to control our neighborhood? You know, if you want a safe community, we're here to help you and assist you, and that's our job.
But I mean, I feel like
we got to work together.
But that show them bad guys doing a better job than the police do because if you
They can influence so many
they
people.
can influence us to be like, man, you know, snitches get stitches, so you feel like, man, I'm not gonna talk with the police.
Top 3 restaurants in Lake Charles for the sheriff.
Oh man, you trying to get me in trouble? Now, you know, there's a lot of restaurants. You look at me, you can tell I eat a lot.
The top 3. That's got to be top 3 up there. Recommended by the sheriff.
No, I can't do that. Hey, I need some votes for the next election, man. I can't be going.
I got you.
Hey, let me tell you, all the restaurants in Lake Charles are good.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Haitian Kings Podcast. Like always, we bring you people in the community that's making a difference. And today, we got a people or somebody that's very special. And we got I'm going to get it right, the sheriff of Lake Charles. You know, there is a new sheriff in town, so we wanted to bring him to the show so he can speak about what they got going on in the community and what difference is he making. Without further ado, Gary Guillory.
Well, let me say it's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to serve as the sheriff of our great parish. And, you know, I was fortunate enough to get elected last October. I actually started my term in July, and we're just looking forward to doing great things. And we got a great group of people, men and women, that work at the sheriff's office that serve our community every day and work hard and try to do the right thing and keep us safe.
Oh.
Man, thank you for being here once again. Like that's one of the episodes we were really excited. We were really looking forward for you to be here because we had like plenty of questions, and I'm sure they got plenty of people who are gonna be watching this that's gonna have a lot of questions themselves that they wish they could be in our shoes and ask you. So let's just start from the very beginning. Like, what motivated you to start following the law enforcement path?
Well, I knew from an early age that, you know, I wanted to be a police officer. You know, I liked watching police shows growing up. And, you know, like most kids, when I was a kid, you know, everybody played cops and robbers. I did too. The only problem was if I wasn't the cop, I wasn't playing. you know, and so I knew early on that I wanted to get into law enforcement.
Okay, that's interesting. But let's speak a little bit on your career. Like, how long you were like a police officer? What's your career like? The type of job you've had throughout the years before you finally made it to be the head sheriff of Lake Charles.
Well, I started this job in 1983. I got hired at Westlake Police. I was 21 years old, young officer, just looking for an opportunity. I applied a number of different places. It just so happened that Westlake Police was the first one to offer me a job, and so I accepted that job and was fortunate enough to work my way up there from a first-year officer. I worked all the way up and became the chief of police of Westlake eventually. I served as chief of police for 7 years. It's an elected position. I had to go out and campaign and run for the office. And so I was fortunate enough to win. And the sheriff, who was the marshal at the time, he and I were friends. We were very close friends. We started our career about the same time. And so he ran for sheriff and won, and asked me to come to work for him as his chief deputy, the number 2 guy at the sheriff's office. And I turned him down at first because I felt like, Westlake Police was a good place for me. I had achieved great things there and was comfortable. But he continued to talk to me and eventually convinced me to leave Westlake and go to work for him. And I served as his chief deputy for 20 years, and I was fortunate enough and blessed enough to be elected sheriff.
But I mean, ask you this. I know, you say you started in 1983, and I know at the time, being, black and being cops, how that aspect for you in the neighborhood, growing up, knowing now everybody know you're a cop, they feel like you betray or some kind of.
Yeah.
How is that for you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I lived in low-income housing. We lived in the projects in this place called Johnson Hall Apartments. And, the police didn't actually have a great reputation, out in the projects. And, I just felt like I had something to offer and that I could make a difference. And I remember going to get all my police gear that day, and I kind of went home and I told my mom, I said, I'm going to be a policeman. She said, "No, you're not." And I said, "Yeah, Mom, I'm doing it." She said, "No, you're not." And I said, "Well, it's kind of late." I said, "I already got my stuff." I said, "It's out in the car." And the first thing she says, "Boy, you gonna make these people burn my house down." And so I remember the first day I got dressed up and I walked out in my police gear, and all the people that lived around us, we all knew each other. I mean, and so they had a few miles fell open, and they were like, "What in the world are you doing?"
And you switching sides.
Yeah, that's what they felt like. I was switching sides, and it's funny because after I became a police officer, 2 of my brothers became police officers, and now we're a police officer family.
So let me ask you this. I know, this is, so you're going through that, but from this time to now, what's the difference? You see a bigger difference, now how people seeing being black and being the cops? You see a bigger difference?
Yes, I can tell you, it's for young African Americans getting involved in law enforcement. Yeah, they face some uphill battles, but you know what? So do everybody else. I mean, there was always a stigma attached that you don't go be policemen, and But I can tell you, it's a great job. I've enjoyed every single minute of it. If I had it to do all over again, I wouldn't change a thing. I would do it. I would do it again tomorrow.
Well, tell me, what would you say is the most challenging and also the most rewarding thing you've experienced by being the sheriff in town?
Well, I can tell you, for me, the most rewarding thing every time I go to work is I get the opportunity to help people. So many times people think of law enforcement officers and they think, oh, yeah, they arrest bad people and they put bad people in jail. And yeah, that's one of our responsibilities that we have as a law enforcement officer. But when you look at it, we go out there and we help people every single day. In law enforcement, you don't always arrest people every day, but you have an opportunity to help people and make an impact, a positive impact on people. And that's what I enjoy about wearing a uniform and wearing a badge, what it stands for. I mean, you represent what's good in our community. You stand for good versus evil. And, every day is a challenge when you put on that badge and you put on that uniform. It's a challenge, but hey, I'm a type of person that, I'm very competitive and I like challenges. And when you talk to most people in law enforcement, they don't get into law enforcement for the money because there's not a whole lot of money in it. unless you get to be sheriff.
I like that.
Yeah, unless you get to the top.
Yeah.
But hey, listen, I remember going to work. I was working at a gas station. And at this gas station, I was making $5.30 an hour. And I left that gas station making $5.30 an hour to go to work at the police department, and it only paid $5. But it didn't
And it's
matter
more risky,
because
isn't
I
it?
was doing what I loved. I was doing what I wanted to do. Is a calling. Law enforcement is a calling. It's not for everybody. Not just everybody can go and strap on the gun and go out there and answer the challenges every day. I mean, I see people coming and going in this profession every day. I used to teach out at the training academy, and during my training and teaching days, I was a firearms instructor. And, I would tell them, hey, everybody in here is not going to be a long-term law enforcement officer. Some of you are going to leave. Some of you are going to stay. Some of you are going to rise through the ranks. And some of you just going to walk away. It just depends on what's in your heart.
But can you see, like when you're training somebody and being around them, can you actually tell who's gonna make it and who's not?
Of course, a lot of times you can, but there was some that I missed. Some people that I thought would have stayed, they didn't end up staying. I mean, I was fortunate coming up through the ranks because I didn't have kids, I didn't have a wife, I didn't have to support anybody but myself. And so, when you get a wife and kids and you get family, sometimes people step away from the job to go make more money for the betterment of their families. And, I understand that. But, I often tell these young people today, hey, if you stay, it's worth it. In the beginning, it's tough because the pay's not that great. But if you stay, it's worth it.
You said that you enjoyed the path that you took, the career that you chose to pursue. But let's just say you said you have children. Let's just say one day they come up to you and then they would tell you they want to follow that same path. Would you encourage them to do it or tell them to do otherwise?
Oh, simple answer. Yes. Do what makes you happy. 41 years I've been doing this job, but I don't feel like I've been to work a day in my life. And so that's my message to my kids. Hey, do what makes you happy. Don't go to a job simply because of what it pays. There's people go out there to the plants and make hundreds of thousands of dollars, but they dread going to work every day. I'm not one of those people. I'm very fortunate, And so I tell my kids, do what makes you happy. Do what you enjoy.
Let's switch gear real quick. What are the initiatives you feel like the sheriff's office is putting in place to help the police deputies do their job better or build a better connection with the community?
Yeah. Well, relationships are important in this business. It's what drives it, and so growing up, police didn't have very good relationships with the community. Why was that? Well, it's pretty simple. Because they didn't spend time in the community. They didn't spend time to get to know people. They wanted to go out there, arrest the bad guy, put him in handcuffs, and drive off. Well, if you want to invest in your community as a law enforcement officer, you got to invest in relationships. You got to invest in people. You got to spend time. One of the things that I used to talk about to our supervisors, if employees feel like you have their best interests at heart and they feel like you're going to do what's best for them, they'll follow you to hell and back. If they don't feel like you have their best interests at heart, it's tough to get people to follow you. And so you do that by spending time with people, and that's what we stress at our sheriff's office. Sheriff Mancuso was sheriff before me. That's one of the things that he was great at was community relations. I go to events after hours. I go to events on Saturday. I go to events on Sunday. It doesn't matter. Take, for instance, last Friday. I worked a full 8-hour day on Friday. After I got off, I went to the rodeo at McNeese. McNeese hosted a rodeo. They asked me to come and just appear at the rodeo and welcome people. And so I did that. After I left the rodeo, I went to the Westlake football game. I'm still in my uniform. I go to the Westlake football game. I go there and I shake hands with people and visit with people. Why? Because I want them to see me within the community. I want them to feel like I'm part of the community. Okay, so after the football game, I go home. Saturday morning, I get up Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. I got a junior deputy graduation. These are young kids that, we spend 8 weeks with, teaching them about police work, trying to get their interest in. Well, I go to their graduation and take pictures and shake hands and present the certificates. I leave there. I go to a funeral. I shake some more hands. That's what you do in this business. When you, the sheriff, when you the mayor, when you the face of a community, people want to see you. People want to touch you. People want to be able to meet you and talk to you. And I enjoy those things.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And one more question, because when we was prepped up for this, getting prepared for this interview, like we were telling people, hey, we got the sheriff that's going to stop by. We're excited about it or whatever. And then I had this gentleman who actually was kind of telling me, but and he was like, man, sometimes policemen, they like to mess with us. Like he said, certain community, they feel like the police just go there on purpose to mess with that part of town, especially North Lake Charles. Like, do you think that's something that they do for the sake of security or to help people, or is it just something to it like they really are targeting them in a sense?
No, I mean, it's like everything else. You have bad people in every profession. Unfortunately, in law enforcement, we have some bad officers. But it's incumbent upon us, and it's important to us to go out there and weed those bad guys out. We put some things in place at our sheriff's office that we think is going to help us. We don't just put people out there in the car and say, hey, go do police work. It doesn't work like that. I mean, we put them through a training process. They have training officers. They have field officers that teach them how to go out there and be fair to people and how to treat people and show them the right way to do things. Our training process at our sheriff's office is anywhere from 6 months to a year. They'll spend in training before we cut them loose by themselves.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a long time.
And so the other thing is we instituted the body cams when they came out. So anytime anybody has an encounter with law enforcement officers, we should be able to see exactly what transpired in that encounter, because we can go and watch the body cam and it has video and audio to give us a complete picture of what happened. And so, we're doing some things in law enforcement that are modern and good for us, but I think those body cams make us better police officers, because now when you have an encounter with police, the whole thing is on video.
So I mean, to me, when I heard it for the first time, I feel like that was weird, because when you got a police officer in one city, there was being a bad cop, and he got fired. Then he can go to a different city and got hired. And to me, I was like, so you don't have a database where you can see like, hey, you did some horrible stuff to people, and then you can go and he can get fired for this one and go to the next one. So why you think like at this point they should have something like stop bad people from entering the force?
Of course. Because to me, one bad policeman is a reflection of all policemen. So if one bad policeman go out there and do things, a lot of people would think all policemen are like that. And we're not. I can tell you, 99% of all policemen are out there doing the right thing. And so it's that 1% that's not out there doing the right thing. That 1% is the 1% that we need to get rid of. And so for a long time, there was no database for bad police officers. Now there is in Louisiana. There's a database. So when you terminate a police officer, or when a police officer just resigns in lieu of being disciplined, yes, you can go to that database and you can enter their information. And so when another city goes to hire, they check that database. They get a picture of what this guy, what he did in prior cities. So we do have a statewide database now.
That's pretty cool because I feel like when I heard it, to me it was mind blowing because if we're trying to get rid of the bad ones, but you get it from this city, but you can go to the next city and come doing the same thing over and over. But I'm glad now they got that. That's pretty cool.
But let me ask you this: what are the requirements if somebody just decided that they wanted to become like a deputy in Lake Charles? Like, what are the requirements? Like somebody off the street, whatever the background is.
You have to have a high school diploma or a GED. You have to be 18, and some places require testing. Like the sheriff's office offered testing too, and so once you go through the testing, then you got to go through the physical standards. Like for us, we polygraph you to see what your background is. When was the last time you done drugs? Have you ever done drugs? Have you ever stolen anything of value? Have you ever committed anything you could have been arrested for? That's all in the polygraph. Okay, and if you fail one question at polygraph, then you don't get hired for the Calcasieu Sheriff's Office.
So let's say, for instance, okay, I understand those questions, but let's say you ask somebody and they feel like at that moment, I mean, it was probably like something, it was not as bad, but he was embarrassed at that moment to say it. Then he ended up being a polygraph like he lies. Is there any way he can explain himself like why he felt like, or they tell him, if you fail the polygraph, they don't let you know. They just say, "You don't take you."
Oh no, we tell them if they fail the polygraph, if they're untruthful, we don't take them. If somebody says, "Hey, I stole some candy. I stole something when I was 15 years old," and now they're 21 years old, we take in consideration the age. Because they stole something, that doesn't automatically disqualify them. What will automatically disqualify them is if they lie about it and they fail the test.
Okay.
To give you an example, we also have to take a test that it's a 1,500 question test, and it's really designed to test whether or not you're telling the truth or not. Basically, like one of the questions may be on this test. It's called a psychological evaluation, where they evaluate the psychology, your makeup. Like one of the questions may be, have you ever fantasized about a coworker? What you gonna answer? I mean, most people will say no because they don't want people to think, well, I'm a pervert or something,
Or something,
So they're gonna say no when the true answer is yes. So if you say no, then you come back scoring low on credibility that you don't always tell the truth. Oh. So the purpose of the test is not to see what your mental makeup is to see whether or not you're going to be honest and tell the truth.
But let me ask this. Let's just say somebody can pass all those things, like they're truthful, they got a good background, and so on and so forth, and then come to realize they have like a bad temper or like they're like they got a short fuse. Would that be something that disqualify them from becoming a deputy?
And that's part of the test too. Like, it's 1,500 questions, and they'll ask you the same question probably 12, 13 times in a different manner.
Yes.
Would you fight somebody if they did something that kept annoying you? Would you fight somebody? And most people are gonna say yes. Well, then you come back as being aggressive in temper. That's not what we want in law enforcement. So this psychological evaluation is probably one of the toughest things that you have to pass besides the polygraph.
But let's say, for instance, and that when you was taking the test, but they lie about it. And then, so cool, they pass it. So they find a way to hide it. But then you find out that this guy like keep losing and losing. So eventually they're gonna lose their job or something like that.
Well, yeah, I can tell you, if you, I mean, that's why they put them through that training phase for that year, because within that year, somebody's going to shadow them while they're out there doing the job, and they're going to see what their temperament is. Are they good at dealing with people? Are they good at interacting with people? And if something happens and they get in trouble and they get disciplined, 2-3 times within a year, you realize real quick that, hey, maybe this guy doesn't have what it takes.
Do they have like a point system, the amount of time to get rolled
not really
up?
a point system, but they're on a probationary period, and they have to prove that, they have what it takes to go out and do this job, and not everybody is built for it.
And thing is, throughout the training, as you said, they gotta sit there and learn everything within 8 weeks, and then they got like a whole 1 year to where they have somebody shadowing them and explaining everything. But I feel like as a job, as important as a police officer, not only, in my opinion, I think they're underpaid, but in what manner do you guys prepare those deputies to deal with the day-to-day thing, as far as like you pull somebody over, how you approach a car, how you look to see if they got any weapon in there? Like, with some officers, I've seen some, they walk towards your car all relaxed and then everything goes smooth. But I've seen some from afar, they put their hand on the holster to where now everybody's freaking out. So, that's something y'all teach them, or how would that work?
That's part of the training process. Like our academy is 17 weeks long. For 17 weeks, all they're doing is learning techniques. They're learning the laws. They're learning, the do's and don'ts of law enforcement. Back when I went through the academy back in 1983, it was 6 weeks. Man, you were in and out. Now it's 17 weeks. They part of the training is the driving course, because policemen do a lot of high speed pursuit, a lot of high speed driving. We don't just throw them out there and say, "Hey, go do this." We put them through a driving school and a driving course, and they learn what the car can and can't do, and so within that 17 weeks of the training academy, and then after they get out of the training academy, they got another 8 months of training, 8 or 9 months of on-the-job training. We feel like we do a pretty adequate job of preparing them for what they're about to face every day.
I got an interesting question I kind of want to ask you, because I don't know if you can recall, probably a few years back, there's this female police officer that kind of got in trouble because she was like doing a live video on Instagram or whatever the case was, saying, "We're the only one that can go above the speed limit. Like, we can go 90 or 100 if we want to, but you can't," or something like that. And sometime I'm on the interstate driving and I see a police officer with no lights on, nothing going on, doing like 190 going. I mean, I don't know, maybe he's going somewhere, but if like the no lights were on, is that something that is allowed, or?
Well, you probably won't see a sheriff's car going that fast, because our cars have
Like a governor on them?
no
Tracker?
we have trackers, okay, and they're allowed to go at least 15 miles over the speed limit. 15 miles over the speed limit if they're going on a call, an emergency call. If they go past that, then an alert goes to their supervisor saying, "Hey, they're exceeding the speed limit by 15 miles per hour." And so in order for them to go coded lights and siren, they have to get permission to do that.
Really? I'm thinking like that was a cool stuff to do.
So you just switch it on. So you got to call dispatch, I'm assuming, and then say this?
Your supervisor has to clear that.
Oh, really?
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't
it was
know
like a cool
that.
thing
Wow.
you can do to avoid traffic. Like if you're going home.
I mean, don't get me wrong, in my country, though, in Haiti, it's something like they just do. Like, like when the cops, people be following them because, in the traffic, when they put the lights on, everybody's going to open. So sometimes people just start following the police officer and stuff like that.
Well, with the laws the way they are, I mean, we have to follow the rules of the road. Just because you have a lights and siren on, it doesn't give you the right to bust an intersection, to bust through it. When you turn those lights and siren on and you drive through an intersection, you have to do it safely. You're asking other drivers for permission to enter that intersection.
So you cannot just. So they don't. Sometimes I don't think I see them slow down. Sometimes I feel like sometimes it depends. I guess depends on the call. I'm assuming.
Yes.
So they can just like.
I mean, I'll be perfectly honest with you. Now, if an officer's calling for help and need backup, then you go as fast as you can to get there to back him up. But
Okay.
On certain calls, no. Just because you have that lights and siren, it doesn't give you the right to bust an intersection. You're asking him for permission. Can I enter? Yes, go through.
I mean, sometimes I see like a 911 calls. They be having some, I want to say some crazy call, like just somebody called because they got a spider in the house. I like dealing, people calling for stuff that's like, I'm not saying like for me that they mean like they're not meaningful, but how being a sheriff, a deputy dealing with somebody just call you and just for stuff like that.
Yeah, that happens, but that's part of our community service. I remember when I was a young deputy, we had this older lady. She was up in age, probably 90, and she would call us all the time. We would go to her house. She couldn't get her pill bottle open. One of them push down and turn. And we'd have to push down and turn and get her medicine. But hey, it's public service. People still call about cats in the trees. We had to call the fire department for that, though. But I mean, it's calls for service is what it's called, and we offer a service, and we go and provide a service.
So what's the step the sheriff is taking for dealing with mental health for the officers and the people in the community?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, mental health is the new hot topic in law enforcement right now, and there's so many people out there that are dealing with mental health issues, and a lot of times law enforcement, we get that call to go and deal with them. And I can honestly tell you, we have some people in our jail right now, unfortunately, that had some mental health problems, and they're in our jail. And they probably shouldn't be there. They probably should be somewhere getting help. The issue is, and the problem is the state doesn't allocate a whole lot of money to mental health awareness for our citizens. And so we're tasked with dealing with them in jail, which we shouldn't be. They should be in the hospital in the mental ward somewhere. As far as mental health with our officers, that's becoming a more and more of an issue. And so, like for us, if we have an officer involved shooting, if they're involved in a shooting, we make them go for a mental health evaluation. We send them there. They don't have a choice. And certain divisions, like in our sex crimes unit, they deal with a lot of stuff involving kids. We require them to go for mental health training every now and again, and so that's always a big concern of administrators in law enforcement: the mental health and the mental being of your employees. You want them to maintain a healthy mental makeup, and so. But that is some issues that we actually deal with, and we try to conquer that every single day within our police works. I mean, you got to watch your people, and you got to understand the signs. We have the highest rate of alcoholism. We have the highest rate of suicide because of the stuff that we see and that we deal with every single day. And this is nothing new in law enforcement. There's always been that mental challenge there to the job. And I know there were times in my career where I went home and just cried myself to sleep at something I've seen there. I got dispatched to a house fire one time, and 3 kids burned up in the mama, that was tough to deal with. And so those are some of the issues that you deal with every day and try to keep your people healthy and in a good frame of mind.
So even though, let's say right now, you the sheriff, if like, I know you're trying to promote mental health to everybody. So do you go to get a therapist yourself?
No, I don't. I don't. But I can tell you, we have a contract with Family, Youth, and Counseling, and they do a great job of trying to help our employees and fix our employees and family members, and they do a great service to our community, and we're so blessed to have them.
Let's make the conversation a bit light. Unfortunately, we live in the South where we're so close to the Gulf, and I mean, every so often we got to deal with hurricanes. Is that something that the deputies are prepped up or trained to deal with this type of thing? Because I'm sure, like in the middle of the hurricane, everybody can just pick up and leave. You guys got to stay behind.
Yeah, we have to stay behind, and we start preparing for a hurricane, probably a week and a half out. We have so much preparation that goes into finding a place for our employees to stay, finding food to feed them and nourish them. You have to find a place that has generator power, because 9 times out of 10 the power's going to go out. But when we're probably 7-8 days out, we tell them, hey, go bring your family where you're going to bring them. Make sure they're in a safe place. It's kind of hard to come here and work hard every day and do the job if you don't know if your family's safe. And so, we've had some bad hurricanes, and unfortunately, we're pretty good at dealing with hurricanes. I mean, we've had to evacuate our jail. We get those prisoners out of there. If a hurricane is going to be a category 3 or larger, we move all of our prisoners out. And so we find other places that'll take them until after the storm. And so it's so much preparation that goes into hurricane season. It's a monumental task, but we have men and women at our sheriff's office that are tasked with that, and we're very. We like to say we're pretty good at it, because if you remember doing the last hurricane, doing Hurricane Laura, we went almost 30 days without any electricity in our parish, and so we went through some tough times. But you know what? When the going gets tough, that's what we do.
So what are the major safety concerns facing Lake Charles right now, and what the sheriff department is doing to tackling those issues?
I would say our major concern is always gun violence. There's so many guns out there, and hey, and let me tell you, I was a firearms instructor. I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment. I believe people should have the right, law-abiding citizens should have the right to bear arms. But that's probably the major challenge. You could go around to any police department in this country, and the one fear that they have is there's a mass shooting within their area. We've had, a couple here at house parties where we've had multiple people shot, but there's always that fear out there of gun violence. And, I really don't know what the answer to it is. Well, I do know the answer. The answer to it is, securing your weapons the proper way, and don't leave them in your car. And, you got, these kids, going in neighborhoods, lifting door handles and stealing all these guns. And then you got 15, 16-year-olds out there packing guns. In Louisiana, it's legal to keep a gun in your car. Your car is an extension of your house. But if you got a gun in there, please make sure it's locked. Don't leave it unlocked. If you can, lock it in the trunk, lock it in the glove box. Don't just leave it laid out and sitting out there. And please lock your vehicles. You know, we have so many car burglaries where weapons are stolen. It's pretty scary, the number of guns that are out within our community.
So
I'm a victim of that myself, but both times it happened in Houston. They broke into my car. First thing they stole was my guns. And speaking of the Second Amendment, because recently I think Louisiana we became a state to where like it's allowed to conceal carry. Before it used to be you can open carry, but now you can either conceal carry or open carry. So, what are the training the deputies have been taking to prep for that kind of stuff? Because whenever you approach somebody, they might have a gun on their waist, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're like a criminal.
That's correct.
And I always feel like me, especially as an African American, I always feel like, okay, if I'm having some sort of interaction with the police and the first thing they see is a gun on my waist, how are they gonna take it? Are they gonna assume that I'm just a robber or a bad guy, or just somebody who's following the Second Amendment and bear the right to carry?
Well, with the law changing like it did, it gave every law-abiding citizen the right to carry firearms concealed. You just can't do it at certain places, like churches, and it's not allowed. And so it definitely changed the way we police. I mean, now you have to assume every person you come in contact with has a gun. You just have to assume that. And it may not be the case, but you don't know. And so it definitely has changed the way that we police. I can tell you if you have a concealed weapon on you, or you have a concealed weapon in your car, if you have an interaction with police, the safest thing is to tell them ahead of time, hey, I have a gun on my side, or I have a weapon in my car. It just makes it more convenient for the police officer to know what he's dealing with. You know, and it's not like you're going to get in trouble if you're a law-abiding citizen. Now, if you're a convicted felon and you have a gun, yes, they're going to arrest you. But if you're a law-abiding citizen, you have a right to have a concealed weapon. You have a right to have a weapon in your car now. That's the law. And so that's the law that we have to live with.
So what's your opinion about it? Do you feel like it's making the neighborhood safer, or do you feel like it's not?
Yeah, it's not really making our job safer, but, you know, at the end of the day, it is what it is. And, you know, if you have bad guys out there that have a gun, well, quite naturally, you as a law-abiding citizen should be able to have that same right.
Well, okay, so for instance, like we had, you know, a gun instructor on the show, so we was talking about it, the gray area. So somebody come and let's say he bought the scenario. If you go, there's shooting happen, and the guy just come out and started shooting, and you got a gun, and you feel like, okay, I'm kind of safe, but the guy is terrorizing. You know, let's say if he was
A public shooting.
you know, public shooter, Walmart, whatever the case may be. What's the, like, if you feel like you can take a shot at, is that the best action to take if you can take a shot?
I mean, you know, the law says you have a right to defend yourself. And so it also says that you have a right to defend other people's life. So, you know, if a guy is shooting at other people, or you think you may shoot at other people, and you're carrying a gun, you have every right in the world to defend innocent people and defend yourself.
So you're not gonna get, well, usually because they got be having some crazy stories, like you can get in trouble. I don't want to do, like, I'm thinking like I'm doing a great thing, and the next thing you know is I'm in so much trouble trying to help it. But sometimes it's that the gray area they be having. You never know where you can get in trouble with and where you cannot get in trouble.
Well, like in a situation like that, you know, you have two options. You can either let them go kill other people, or you can try to, you know, stop the threat. And I mean, you know, the right thing to do is to do the right thing and step up. And hey, if he's trying to kill somebody and you have an opportunity to kill him, I mean, that's tough. I mean, you know, people think, you know, as law enforcement officers, that you can go out there and you can shoot somebody and you can go home and go to sleep. It doesn't work like that. You know, I mean, when you shoot somebody, when you have to take somebody's life, that is probably the toughest thing that you have to deal with as a law enforcement officer, knowing that you had to kill somebody, you had to take somebody's life. That's tough, but that's what we signed up for, and that's what we're trained for. That's why we have the training that we have. So it's not natural to take a gun and shoot and kill somebody and then go home and go to bed and everything's okay. It doesn't work like that.
And can you give me like one example, like something that happened throughout your career that changed the way you approach the job, the way you approach being a sheriff?
One thing that happened within my career. I can't really pinpoint one thing that really changed the way that I do things because, I've always had the mindset that, my job as a law enforcement officer is to help people, protect people's property. And whatever I need to do that, that's what I'm going to do. And so, for 41 years, I've been doing the same thing. I think law enforcement is about having the proper mindset, the right mindset to go out there and do this job, to be able to keep your cool. And, were there times that I could have shot someone? Yes, but I didn't. I chose not to. I can remember, going on a call and a guy standing out there with a gun and could I have shot him and killed him? Yes, I very well could have and been justified. The fact that I didn't and it was resolved peacefully is, a tribute to the training that I was given as a law enforcement officer. Some people go their whole career and never fire their weapon. Never.
Oh, wow.
I've never shot anybody. I've never discharged my weapon in a line of duty in 41 years.
Oh,
Man, that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. But speaking of, like you started saying earlier, you just recently became the sheriff of Lake Charles, and back then you were like the number 2, so which means you had to limit certain things you couldn't quite do because you didn't have that much power. But currently, like right now that you're in office, in a sense, you currently the sheriff of Lake Charles.
Is there
being the new sheriff in town? Is there any differences, like any new thing that you are implementing as the new sheriff?
Well, like we're in the process of doing a digital crimes unit. We have a digital crimes unit, but we're investing more manpower and more people. Why? Because you're starting to see more and more thefts of online, people going online and stealing from other people. Our patrol division is doing really, really well right now. We're trying to up our numbers and get more people out there. There was a time where we had what we call a CDU, a crime deterrent unit. And it was a group of 5 guys, and all they did was concentrate on areas where we had high crime, and they would go in there. They wouldn't answer any calls. Their job is to go in there and find out where the problem is, what the problem is, and try to address it. And so we haven't had that unit probably in about 3 or 4 years. We're trying to get our numbers up, and we can bring that unit back together because it was very successful in deterring crime. I mean, when you can take a 5-man team and put them in one part of town where they're having a bunch of burglaries and all they got to do is concentrate on that. So we're always looking for new technology. We started our real-time crime center, which has helped us solve a lot of crime. Basically, they do so much intel work for our guys. And hey, look, in this certain area, we've had 10 burglaries between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. So we would move those guys into that area and say, hey, let's saturate this area and see what we can do. So law enforcement has become much more technologically savvy. You have to invest in technology.
Speaking of technology, because I remember about a few years back, probably like a year or two ago, they were speaking of the Atchafalaya Bridge, the one in Lafayette, that long bridge, that 23-mile bridge, and then they were talking about implementing a new set of law to where they can have
The speeding.
the speed to. I think they did the math and realized how long it would take you to cross that bridge if you do 65, which is the speed limit, and then if you go from one end to the other end, and then you do it like a second shorter, you get a ticket. And a lot of people fought it and they got rid of it. So what's your opinion on that matter? You feel like that would be something that's good or perhaps bad?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a big guy on a big person on speeding tickets issued through the mail. You know, I'm one of them guys that I don't want to get a speeding ticket in the mail. If I'm gonna get a speeding ticket, I want a policeman to pull me over and say, "Sir, you were speeding," and sign here. Here's your ticket. And so, yeah, that thing on a Atchafalaya bridge, it kind of got thrown out. But I can tell you, we use some of that same technology, but we don't do it for speeders. We do it to solve crime.
Interesting, because when you live in big cities like the Houston, the Floridas of the world, New York, and so on and so forth, they got like camera in every single corner to where like you never know when you're gonna be receiving. Like you run to a yellow light or something like that. If for some reason the camera felt like, okay, if you didn't cross that yellow light, you're gonna get a ticket to the mail. And I always thought that would suck. To where
Yeah, I'm glad Lakeshore doesn't have one.
no, I always thought that would suck. Like here you are minding your business, driving from point A to point B. Like whenever you do something, you're like, "Oh, I got away with it. I'm good."
Yeah. Or one of those, hey, the car was registered to me, but I let my buddy use it. I got to pay this ticket.
Basically, yeah. And then that's why I'm glad, like in Lake Charles, we don't have this sort of thing. Because I've never really was like a big city guy. So that's why whenever I go to Houston or if I go to Florida, because I got family there and I got to deal with those type of things. Because I think they got a law in Florida to where you cannot make a right turn in a red light.
Yes.
And whenever I go to Florida, it's kind of like a 6, like not even a 6. And I got to keep reminding myself, you can't do that. You can't do that. Because I know like where I'm from, where I live, we can't do that. When you go to Florida, you do that, just like you said, you're going to get a ticket in the mail.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So we know, like, say 2020, with all the stuff that was happening, and everybody was screaming, defunding the police for all the racism or all this madness.
The George Floyd thing.
Yes, but I feel like defunding the police, I think is a more stupid thing people can say. But what's your opinion about that?
Yeah, I didn't necessarily agree with this defunding the police stuff because you know what? At the end of the day, if you don't have law enforcement here to arrest bad guys and protect your community, what do you have? And somebody's breaking in your house and you call the police and they said, hey, we can't come because we got defunded, but we're gonna get somebody over there as soon as possible. That just don't sound right. But I'm gonna tell you, we are so blessed and fortunate to be in the community that we're in and have law enforcement, the support that law enforcement has. One of the reasons we solve so much crime is because people are willing to get involved and be a part of helping us keep our community safe. It's sort of like growing up in low-income housing in the projects. They didn't trust the police, so guess what? They didn't talk to the police. We would never give police any information to go out there and arrest a bad guy because we felt like the police were the enemy. There was a sense of trust. And that's why it's important for us to work hard to keep that open communication and that trust with our community and for our community to believe in what we do is for their betterment because we have to work together. We can't solve crime if people are not willing to step up and say, this is what I seen, this is what I know. And
but, like I said, the rule of the street is snitches get stitches.
Oh, yeah. Hey, listen. Listen. I've been there. But those same people that are out there killing other people may one day kill you.
I agree.
Yeah.
Those same people those same people that were out there in the projects breaking in our house, stealing our TVs and our VCRs I know I'm telling my age right now, but those same people was out there stealing TVs and VCRs and robbing our house were the same people we were protecting. Why? Why were we protecting bad guys? Why were we allowing these negative people to control our neighborhood? And so, if you want a safe community, we're here to help you and assist you, and that's our job.
But I mean, I feel like
we got to work together.
But that show them bad guys do a better job than the police do, because if you
if they can influence so many people,
they can influence us to be like, man, snitches get stitches. So you feel like, man, I'm not gonna talk with the police. But then, I mean, listen to what you said. The right thing is, yes, well, you wanna,
protect the bad guy.
Protect the bad guys, and they can turn on you, and you can become the victim from the same bad guy. But I think we gotta do a better job in that sense.
Well, yeah, you're right. But see, and that's law enforcement's job to go in there and earn the trust of people, because people are not gonna give you their trust until you prove that you've earned their trust. And you know what? For us to go in there and make an arrest, we don't have to have you come in and stand right up there in front of the guy and say, hey, that's the guy right there. You can do it in a nice, discreet way and give us the information we need and let us work it from there.
And speaking of all those things, it's like you kind of mentioned earlier, 2020, after the whole George Floyd thing, that's pretty much, people were dealing with COVID, and then that happened in the middle of it. That make it matter even 10 times worse. And when you see police brutality, and then you look at the social media, and then they always posting those videos of a police officer, doing the wrong thing, or a police officer putting his knee on somebody's back. And then recently we had this football player, Tyreek Hill, who got stopped for speeding, and then it went from that, I don't know if you knew about that situation, it went from that to where, like, at one point they had like 3 people sitting on top of him. Like, whenever those deputies or police officers or elder trooper or whatever they might be, is that part of the training? Because me personally, as an African-American person, like that's why I always said, like, when I get pulled over, I was trying to get this whole thing done. I'm not going to say I wasn't speeding. No, give it to me. I'll fight it later so I can get away from you as fast as possible. It's because, like, within the back of my mind, I'm thinking, if this thing goes wrong, I'm going to have, like, 20 people sitting on my back. And if I can't breathe, I might find myself within that same situation. As the sheriff of Lake Charles, is that like something you guys keep reminding officers, like if they're making an arrest, like how do they go about it, and where they can grab the person? Or because sometimes a person can still, like as we see on social media, a person can be with cuffs, and then yet they still treat that person as if he's still a threat.
Yeah, and that goes back to training policemen the right way to do things. We try to teach in our training. First of all, you don't ever put your knee on nobody's neck, on nobody's spine, on nobody's. I mean, part of the cuffing techniques of command and control is, they teach you to put a knee in the back while you're cuffing, but after you cuff and after they're cuffed, you get up. The other thing that we teach now is don't let people lay in the prone position. Because when they have issues breathing, the prone position is not the right position to be in. That's why now, our techniques are, when we get somebody cuffed, we're going to either stand them up or we're going to sit them up. We don't leave them laying prone on the ground, because that's where we have issues. And so every day, we learn new techniques, we learn new things. Back when I first came up in law enforcement, you arrested somebody, the safest place was for them laying on the ground, because you know what? They can't hurt you laying on the ground. But if they're having breathing issues, that's not the best place for them. So now we try to get them up and stand them up.
So that's why. But when somebody's screaming, say, "Hey, I can't breathe," "Oh, I'm having issues," and sometimes like it's just like because the officers deal with this, people lying about it all the time, or sometimes they just decide not to do it, and then you allow somebody to really having an issue and then die in your position because you was being negligent about it.
Well, there's a condition called excited delirium, and sometimes when you fighting somebody to get them arrested, and you fighting to get them cuffed, and for whatever reason, they heart may go into cardiac arrest, or they may have issues breathing. Unfortunately, that's one of the things that happens when you fight with the police, and that's why it does nobody any good to try to fight the police there. They there to arrest you, let them arrest you. You have your day in court. They're not the ones that decide whether or not you're guilty. The judge decides that, and you can't get justice on the side of the road.
That's the best
Speaking
way
of,
to put it.
and I like that he said that. Speaking of that, and because I don't know if you remember, first time we've met, I had a story for you. Like I got pulled over, it was in the Ritter, and the police officer was extremely nice. But one thing that he kind of did, which I didn't really mind, and like he asked me if I gave him my consent to search my car. I told him yeah, and he kind of put me in cuff and put me in the back of his car, and he like explained to me the reason he's doing that is for my safety and his safety. And so he'd be like, well, he's searching my car so I can come behind him and hit him in the back of the head or something like that. And I have a cousin of mine who had a similar situation, but like they didn't put him in the back of the car. They pretty much sat him on the sidewalk while they searching the car, but he was in cuff and everybody was driving by looking like, oh, I wonder what did that guy do? Is that the proper way to go about things?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that old saying, there's more than one way to skin a cat, but I don't think that's the proper way to conduct it. But that's just me. I wouldn't ever put somebody in handcuffs and set them on the side of the road and let people ride by and look at them sitting out there. And I hope none of our deputies would do that. I mean, the proper thing to do is you call for backup and let your backup stand there and visit with him and talk to him while you do your thing. So,
I mean, let's go back slightly on this. I'm not gonna say snitches, but talking with law enforcement. So there's not too long ago. I don't know how long the video been, but the guy that went to jail for drugs, whatever the case may be, and then the video was leaked that he was just talking about everything that happened and his crew. He was like snitching on everybody. So to me, I was like, how did this video get leaked? Is that a public because if feel like, let's say, I'm not talking about him especially, but let's say, for instance, I wanna like the guy was snitching and talking and say all this stuff, and then now the video is out there, it's not safe for him to have stuff like that. But I was always asking the question is that legal for that video to leak for them to know about it?
Once it goes to court and the case is closed, that video is public record.
But wouldn't that be safe though?
It's
Would that be
public
safe
record.
for that person?
Anything that's presented at that trial is public record.
But I mean, but now it's risky, right? Let's say, for instance, you had a whole crew and you got all these people. You never know who is gonna feel
some type of way out of the fact that they got in trouble. Their family might be some type of way to where their husband, their dad, or whomever going to be away because of you, and feel the need to retaliate against you. That's what I'm saying. Like whenever you expose this type of videos,
well, and that's why, as a law enforcement officer, it's important for you to be up to techniques on what you can and can't do. And for me, if you got somebody that's part of a crime and they willing to turn state's evidence, and well, that means they got to get up there and testify in open court anyway. So, but sometimes we gather information from witnesses that we don't always expose where it come from.
Okay. I mean, I felt like I was looking at that video. I was like, man, this guy's in a lot of trouble. That happened in Lake Charles. But I know, do you feel like Lake Charles to me is a small city? But do you feel like Lake Charles got a big drugs problem?
A big drug problem? Yes, yeah. Every city in America's got a drug problem, and Lake Charles is no different. I mean, we don't have gangs like a lot of places do, and so our drug problem is more controlled, confined. But I can tell you, we're out there arresting people every day on drug charges. Could our problem be worse? Of course it could. I mean, but I can tell you, our CAT team, we got a combined CAT team of different agencies that work together and to try to combat our drug problem. They do a good job of arresting people and keeping drugs off our street, but you know, drugs is prevalent everywhere. I mean, you know, I remember growing up, and you know, if you wanted to score something, you could. I mean, everybody knew where to go, and so, but I can tell you, law enforcement's going to continue to go out there and work drugs, and we're going to make arrests where we can, and we just, you know, take it, you know, just work it as hard as we can.
So when it comes to certain things, such as, let's just say, DUIs and stuff of that nature, is that something the sheriff department also take care of, or is it just
Yes.
the LA troopers?
Yes, we do DUIs. It's against the law to drink and drive, and you know, the last thing we want is somebody to go out there and get drunk and hit somebody. It could be my kids they hit. It could be my wife. It could be anybody's wife, and so it's important for us to if they're driving under the influence, to take them off the road.
But do those deputies get like a quota, like a
No,
five a
there
week,
is no
5
quota.
a month, or however it may go?
No, there's.
I think this is. When I heard about this, I couldn't believe it. Like, you know, I feel like they had a quota. Like, you gotta meet a certain.
Like a
gotta-
certain amount of ticket you gotta give.
I was
or
like,
something?
man, so you telling me these guys go out there, it's just like, you breathe, he's trying to give you a ticket because he gotta meet his quota.
No, we don't have quotas. That's something that
Is it for
we've
all
never
the
had.
other, or like is it also the same thing for the city police in
Oh, I
LA?
can't speak. I can't speak for other police departments, but I can tell you we don't have quotas.
That is interesting. Because like, as he was like having a chance to talk to you as the sheriff in town, and then like he was telling you the story about the time he was dealing with the deputy. He was like, man, those guys are different. They're nicer. They take their time. You know, they don't really make you feel like, hey, you're in trouble. And like in the sense, you can tell they're here to serve. And then compared to other departments, you can see the difference within the attitude. It could be like a little different. And I guess props to you, and also prop to the ex-sheriff Mancuso. And like I said, when it comes to police department, I've always heard nothing but positive stuff when it comes to the sheriff department. So
Well, and you know what? We try to serve our community the right way. You know, are we perfect? No, but we always working to try to do what we can to make the relationship between our deputies and the public better. And so that's always a challenge. I mean, after all, you know, you guys are taxpayers. We work for you, you know. So it's important that we give you the service the best service that we can give you. Because you never know when we may come to you and say, hey, we need a tax pass, you know, and it's so much easier to work with that when you're out there doing the right thing with the public and the public recognizes that. Because I can tell you, if you're out there and you're not treating the public the right way and you're not doing things the right way, nobody's going to vote to support you and pass a tax for you. And not saying that we are. We're good financially. We don't have to come to you and ask for a tax increase, but we may have some tax renewals coming up that we need you to vote for. But you know, it's important that we just go out there and do the right thing for the right reasons.
And the other day I was at work and I actually saw something on social media that was actually quite comical. And the other thing, there was like a police officer that was just driving. He wasn't speeding, but the only thing that he wasn't doing was he wasn't using his blinkers to go left or right. And they had this guy who pretty much recorded the whole thing and followed him. And then they started bumping his horn until the police officer stopped and be like, hey, man, call your supervisor because you're not using your blinkers. Is that something you would advise people to do?
No, I wouldn't advise to do that. But hey, you know what? The law says you're supposed to signal to turn or get over. And, you know, sometimes we as police officers, we need to be reminded that, hey, we need to do things the right way too, and there's nothing wrong with that.
So when all said and done, what you would want your legacy to be?
When I'm done,
When all said and done, what you want your legacy to be?
well, you know,
You want a big old statue downtown?
hey, you know, I guess when I leave office, kind of like Sheriff Mancuso just did, I just want it said that, you know what, he did the best he could do to keep our community safe and treat people the right way. And, you know, I mean, we all want a legacy where, you know, people remember you for the good things that you've done. And, you know, I can tell you in 41 years, I've had a lot of good times in this job, and I have so many memories that, you know, I couldn't even begin to count. And I just want people to say, hey, you know what? He was fair and he was a good man. I'm good.
A question I got to ask you, and you're the perfect man for it. Because I know in the military they require that those military members like stay fit to an extent. Like, you know, they got their PT session, they got to do her once a week, however it may go. Because I remember sometimes I'd be seeing police officers that is like so out of shape too. I'm thinking, okay, this guy will never catch me. Like if I'm running. So do you guys have some sort of like physical requirement? Because sometimes you see certain guys and you're like, okay, this guy's not arresting nobody.
Yeah, yes, we have physical fitness requirements, and if you notice when you look at our patrol shift, those are normally young guys up and coming that are in shape. And you know, when you get old like me, you know, you can't do all those things those patrol guys do, and that's why we have these other jobs that we move into. But hey, we have a saying in law enforcement that, you know, if you're gonna be on patrol, it's a young man's game. You know, because at some point you get too old to jump them fences. I couldn't jump a fence right now. I don't think if I had to. I'd give it hell trying, though. But yeah.
And that note, there's like another video that I saw, like scrolling on social media. There's this guy, like the police officer was like searching him, and then he just took off running. And the dude saw how fast that dude was. Like, man, that dude too fast. I'm not even gonna waste my time.
But one thing about it, we always tell them, no matter how fast they are, they can't outrun the radio.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So being the sheriff right now, let's say you was driving your car and somebody's doing something bad, do you still can stop him, or do you have to call somebody to come do the job?
The right thing to do would probably be call a mark unit to stop them. I could. I have lights and siren in my car. I mean, in the past, have I ever pulled somebody over? Yeah, if they were driving recklessly or dangerously and putting other people's lives at risk, yeah, I don't have a problem with stopping them and pulling them over and calling the mark unit. But most of the time, I'll call ahead and just get behind them and let a mark unit get in. But it just depends on the situation and what it is.
Okay, I would say, like, let's say, for instance, right now, let's say something bad was happening, somebody was commit a crime or something, and you right there, so you be the guy that's gonna handle that till somebody else coming.
Oh yeah. Hey, one thing about it, you're a policeman 24 hours around the clock. There's no time off. If something's bad happening and you need to do what you need to do, then hey, that comes with the job.
And interestingly enough, you said that you're basically a police officer 24/7, on and off the clock. But the thing is, as the sheriff in town, do you feel like more pressure within yourself to, like, I guess, abide the law? As, like, you know, everybody got their speeding days. You're running late, you know, doing 10, 15, 20 over or whatever.
Hey,
or
listen,
do you put more pressure on yourself too? Like, okay, I should know better. I can't do it, whether you're running late or whatever the case might be.
Hey, listen, I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, we're not perfect. We make mistakes and we sometimes do things we shouldn't. We're human. And, you know, I ran across that this weekend, and, you know, I was at a store. I had stopped and got some drinks. And I was going to an event, and I told them I would bring the drinks, and I'm filling up this ice chest and dumping ice on them and put the ice chest in my car, and I take off and I go to the event. And Of course, I look on Facebook and there's a post with my basket with my empty boxes, and it said, "The sheriff left his trash." Hey, I'm not perfect. And you know what? When I went in the office this morning, my secretary's like, "Hey, Mr. Facebook," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Well, you made Facebook today. Somebody posted a picture of your trash that you left in the parking lot at Market Basket," and I was like, "Okay." That'll never happen again.
The internet always wins, man.
You know, I mean, hey, it's not like I threw it on the ground. I left it in the basket, and I shouldn't. You know, I should have rolled the basket over there to the trash can and put it in. But hey, you know what they say? Sometimes your best lessons are learned from mistakes.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I feel somebody, you know, when you a public, you know, figure like this, everybody looking for anything just to get a cloud out.
Hey, and listen, the person posted the picture and said, "Your sheriff left this," and I'm thinking, "Oh my God, my wife's gonna be PO'd at me." If she'd have been with me, that'd never happen.
Oh yeah.
But hey, that's what happens when you're in a rush and you're trying to do things, and you know. But it was something learning for me. And listen, you know, like I said, you're human, we're human, and we make mistakes. But yes, that was a learning lesson for me, and so I can promise you, I will never leave trash in the basket again because I don't know who's watching.
But I feel like that's like a lot of pressure. As you said, we are human. Like that day you were in a rush, you left it behind. Like one day you be running late. I don't know, you might be doing 5-10 over. It's a human thing. But I feel like that'd be like an extremely uncomfortable position where you feel like, I got to make sure I'm perfect in the eyes of everybody because at the end of the day, nobody is.
Yes. Hey, and that comes with the stresses of the job. And I accepted the responsibilities of the job. And, you know, it's important. I got to live up to the responsibilities. And, you know, my one of my daughters saw the post and she sent it to me, and I said, "Yeah, I seen it." And she said, "Dad, you got to pick up your trash." And I said, "Gab, you're right. I'm guilty." You know, and it made me feel like crap because here my daughter is see that, and I'm supposed to be an example of what she should follow, and I fell short, and so.
When things happen, I mean, I feel like, I get it in a sense because, you know, when you're a public figure like this, everybody looking for you to be an example. And like you say, you're human, stuff happens. So.
Yeah. But it won't happen again. I can promise you that.
We're going to double check every time.
Yeah. Hey, in fact, next time I see a basket with trash in it, I'm going to pay it forward. I'm going to go throw it in the trash can for somebody.
Well, but let's just say this, though. 41 years in the force. Let's just say if you had to go back to that, you know, young 21-year-old kid that didn't even know how to tell his mom that I'm going to become a police officer, what would you tell him?
You know, I've been blessed, and this job, this occupation has been good to me, and you know, I have so many good memories, and hopefully I still have memories to make. I'm not planning on retiring anytime soon. I still got kids in high school and college, so I got to be here for a while. But, you know, I would tell anybody that's considering a career in law enforcement, it is the most challenging, rewarding job that you can ever have because you're going to face many challenges. But at the same time, you're going to have an opportunity to help so many people and do so many good things. And, you know, life is what you make it at the end of the day. You know, I'm always a positive person. You know, it's like they said, you can take a glass and sit it there and it's half full. And, you know, negative people are going to look at it and say it's half empty. But those positive people are going to look at it and say, hey, it's half full. And I'm one of them half full guys. And I always try to look at the positives of life and the good things. And, you know, I tell my kids, hey, do what makes you happy.
So my question is, since you being the new sheriff in town, and then what would you tell anybody and the community is watching this podcast, what you want them to know about Gary Gilloy, the new sheriff in town?
I would want them to know that, I'm probably one of the most dedicated, caring people that could ever have this job. I'm blessed and I'm fortunate to be able to have this job. When I ran in the election, it was 6 of us in this race. I ended up winning the race with almost 60% the first time without a runoff, and having said that there's never been an African American elected parish-wide in this whole entire parish, and we've been a parish since 1848, and I'm the first one. That's a good feeling for me. It tells me that, the people of our community has taken notice of the work that I've done, the roots that I've laid, and the labor that I've done out there. And I'm going to continue to always labor for this community. I'm going to continue to always try to do positive things and great things for this community because, hey, it's home. No place like home, and it's no place I'd rather be. And there's no other place that I would rather work than the Calcasieu Parish Sheriff's Office. And so I'm blessed. I look back at Martin Luther King and the I Have a Dream speech, and, he had a dream. And because he had a dream, I'm living mine.
Nice. Wow, that's powerful.
Hey, it's about paying it forward.
Yeah, that is actually powerful. Okay, question. Top 3 restaurants in Lake Charles for the sheriff.
Oh, man, you trying to get me in trouble. Now, there's a lot of restaurants. Look at me. You can tell I eat a lot.
The top 3. That's got to be top 3 up there. Recommended by the sheriff.
No, I can't do that. Hey, I need some votes for the next election, man. I can't be going
I got you.
All right. Hey, let me tell you, all the restaurants in Lake Charles are good.
But favorite food, top 3 favorite food to make it simpler.
The top 3 favorite foods?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Of course, ribeyes. I'm a steak man, and then
how you like it cooked?
Medium. I get pink on the inside.
Yeah.
But then my next favorite food is crawfish.
That's how you know he's from the South.
Yeah. No, the third one is when you know you're from the South because
gumbo.
Nope.
No, I got
Red beans and rice.
Man, I told you that guy was legit because I'll eat the hell out of some red beans and rice, man. I can't help it.
Red beans and rice and sausage.
Man.
And throw in a little cornbread. Life is good.
Do you know Zydeco since you're from the South?
My wife been trying to teach me. She said I got 2 left feet though, and I mean, I get out there and dance a little bit. I love some Zydeco.
I mean, do you dance better? I don't know if you drink or not.
Oh yeah, hey, I'm like everybody else. The drunker I get, the better.
Man, you got any more questions for the show?
No, man, that was a wonderful episode, and thank you so much for coming to the show because I feel like we're in the community, and they got a pretty good sized Haitian community in Lake Charles, and then I wanted to make sure when they share, and your deputy see one with the dogs and the cats, we don't eat them. Let them know that's our pet. We don't eat the pets, But it was really, the point to making the show is just having people like you coming because, like I said before the show, I was thinking the sheriff, all of you was a sheriff, So I was like, man, I'm just the head of the sheriff. And we now knowing he's only one sheriff, So being immigrant coming here and then we decided to do this podcast and bringing people from different background, we're learning from you and understand about law enforcement, understand about, business and stuff like that. That's what makes the show so great. And thank you so much for coming to the show.
Hey, well, listen, you 2 guys have been great, and I've really enjoyed this, and I hope y'all invite me back.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Anytime you got something going on in the community, you feel like the people need to know about it, the platform is yours, and Come here anytime you want.
Hey, so listen, I'll make this promise to you. Now, I like to cook. So next time you invite me back, I'm bringing red beans and rice and sauce.
My man. And then the thing is, that's the beauty of, just to kind of reiterate what he just said, that's the beauty of what we do. Because this thing, I don't know if for you, but for us, it's extremely therapeutic because it's like a blessing in a sense. So we get to sit across from people from all different kind of walk of life. And nowadays, we're like two immigrants. Now we're sitting in the same room with the sheriff of Lake Charles. That's a huge deal to us, in a sense. So therefore, like, we also, once again, thank you for coming here. And it was like an amazing interview. I've enjoyed it, and I'm sure he's enjoyed it. And we had fun. We were able to discuss like many important matters. And I'm sure there's a few that maybe we didn't get a chance to address. Hopefully next time, you come by with that red beans and rice, we're going to sit there and we're going to address it.
Hey, you got the man, the red beans and rice. He's gonna
Hey, well, let me tell you, you two guys are a testament to what people can do when they come to this country and do things the right way. And I'm very honored to be in y'all company. And hey, I've enjoyed this. This has been great and therapeutic for me. And so thank y'all very much.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. And then, ladies and gentlemen, this was the Haitian King Podcast. We had the Sheriff Stitch Guillory here for you. Hopefully we asked all the questions people always wondered about. And from what I've saw, that's my second time meeting him. And we are in great hands, for sure. And as always, like, follow, share, and subscribe, and also comment. If there's any question, anything that we address that you like, talk about it. And that's going to be it for the day.
Yeah, thank you so much, man.
You're welcome.
That was a really good show.
Yeah, it really was.
Oh, man, that was really awesome.
That was cool.
No, I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
And that's why they say they got a new sheriff in town. Yeah. But it never clicked. I keep saying, the sheriff, they got the sheriff department, but you the sheriff.
You're the only sheriff there.
Yeah,
Like all
I
them
just
other
keep-
guys are deputies.
The deputies.
Yes.
I keep saying, the sheriff, man, the sheriff's are with it. He's only one sheriff, man. My bad, Stage. I've been messing this thing up.
You're messing the men title up. Giving it to everybody.